Fred Wilson is co-founder and managing partner at Union Square Ventures. That's an early investor in Twitter and Foursquare. Dennis Crowley is co-founder of the check-in service Foursquare, which has 6 million users and raised $20 million from investors in June. Guys, thanks so much for being with us.
Great, thanks
for having us.
Hey, I want to kick it off, Fred, with you. Because, and both of you, let me throw it out to both of you. Social media played a big role in what's going on in Egypt. I mean, does it surprise you to see the impact that social media is kind of having? Not only just in kind of everybody communicating so easily with one another, but that it can be really a force for change, Fred.
I would take a step farther. Internet media, right? WikiLeaks, people say, was the reason for what happened in Tunisia, and obviously Tunisia had something to do with what happened in Egypt. And I just think the internet is just opening up communication channels, whether it's friend to friend on Facebook or friend to huge audience on Twitter, or what's going on with WikiLeaks. I just think this sort of radical transparency is really a new thing that governments have to deal with.
Well, it's funny when you say WikiLeaks. Do you think the criticism that it came under, was it wrong?
WikiLeaks?
Yeah.
Well, I'm all about using the internet to get the information out. So I'm personally a fan of WikiLeaks.
Dennis, what about you in terms of the role of social media and how we're seeing it really kind of enact change here?
Yeah, well, I think we're seeing the stuff on the ground here at home and in New York. Like, we're using it on a daily basis to meet up with friends and just find out what's going on. And you could see how it was rallying people during the elections that we had here in the U.S. You can only imagine how powerful that is when you bring it to to other locations where people are fired up and motivated to get a message across.
Where do you think it goes next? I mean, what do you think is the next phase for social media, Dennis?
Well, just in general?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff that we're exploring is kind of the next phase, right? So social media for a long time has been defined by, the way that you interact with your social graph just online with your laptop in front of you. And a lot of the Foursquare stuff explores what happens when you take that social graph and you close the lid on your laptop and you use these tools and you're actually out in the world and interacting with real people in real places.
Fred, what about your thoughts in terms of what's kind of the next step for social media?
Well,
or is it just an expansion upon everything that's still out there?
The thing that's amazing is when you take social media and you put it on a mobile device, you get this whole real-time thing happening, because now you can stay in touch with your friends and what's happening in the world all the time because you have it with you. So it's real-time, it's social, it's mobile, it's all those kind of three things coming together that really is sort of where it's at and where it's going.
Let me ask you, Fred, though, because you've said that some areas of the tech sector, like the early stage space, are getting a bit overheated. I mean, we're seeing that play out.
I think it's great for entrepreneurs. I mean, Dennis has been able to build a very big company in a very short period of time, and the access to capital has allowed him to hire and grow his business very quickly. So it's great for entrepreneurs, but as investors, it's a double-edged sword. We're investors in Foursquare, so what's good for Foursquare is good for us, but also we're paying higher and higher prices, and at some point that I do think will impact how much money we make as investors.
Well, where do you think the froth is? I mean, in terms of the space that you guys are seeing unfold here?
Well, I mean, it happens with the intersection of social and mobile and location. And, I think all three of those areas are seeing a lot of innovation right now, and Foursquare is lucky enough that we kind of sit right in the middle of all three of them.
Right, but a lot of that innovation, is it in the long run, is it not going to play out long term? You talk about a lot of money out there in the capital allowing folks who've got good ideas to kind of build and carry out those ideas. But is there a lot of ideas that aren't going to be around in a few months, a few years?
Yeah, I mean, the startup world is full of failure. The great thing about the startup world, particularly here in the United States, is it's not a black mark. If you launch something and you fail, you can go out again and raise money the next time. People understand that, and I know that a third of everything we invest in is going to fail.
Is that different though from what we've seen in the past? Because we know that with a lot of startups, right? A lot of things don't make it out.
No, it's no different. There's still going to be a lot of failure.
Well, when you guys see something like Dennis, a $50 billion valuation for Facebook, do you have visions of a $50 billion valuation? Fred says yes.
I do.
But realistically, do you think those are crazy numbers?
Well, I see it as baby steps, right? So when we first got our valuation of around $100 million, it's like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening right now, and you try to see how much bigger can it get?
Right.
And things they're moving very quickly for us, and who knows where we're going to be in a couple of years.
But it's quickly good.
I think it is good.
Yeah.
Dennis, I want to ask you something, because we were just talking about the valuation for Facebook. You've turned down offers, correct, from some bigger companies to buy your company.
Yeah, we have to look at what's best for the product and what's best for the company. And we've got a lot of ideas, and we're building this great team, and we're starting to prove to ourselves that we can continue to build these things.
What's the exit strategy?
For us,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I think it's too early to call that. So, I mean, we have this vision of the stuff that we want to build. It's probably going to take us another couple of years to get there.
Right.
So we're just building as quickly as possible.
Well, where does an IPO? I mean, we in the business media are kind of obsessed with when do these things IPO, and maybe that's crazy and putting crazy pressure on everybody. But is that part of the thinking, Fred, when you're looking at an investment in here? I mean, is that always in the background?
Look at Bloomberg. We're sitting in the middle of Bloomberg's headquarters, right? Bloomberg was started in the 70s sometime, so we're talking now 40 years. Bloomberg never went public and never sold. It's one of the great companies. It's one of the best startups in New York City, right? And it didn't go public, didn't get sold. Why do we have to have an exit strategy?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, are companies rethinking that and saying maybe it's better to keep it, private? You're still in, control. You're kind of controlling it going forward. I mean, are people thinking about it less?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Merrill Lynch was an investor in Bloomberg,
right.
And eventually Merrill Lynch got an exit by being taken out by Bloomberg. Not saying that that's what will happen with Foursquare, but if Dennis doesn't want to sell the company, we will find a way to make money on our investment. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You're okay with that. Fred, you guys announced a new fund, an opportunity fund. I think it's about $165 million. It's a late stage or later stage fund. Is that kind of a shift in strategy for you?
We didn't. It's not really.
Tell me if I'm not.
What we did that for was that a lot of companies are choosing to stay private for longer, and sometimes there needs to be investors, buying out some of the early angel investors or other things, and we want to be able to do that for our companies. We want to be able to be a capital provider, a liquidity provider. So a lot of what we're going to do with that fund is actually provide liquidity for the early shareholders of the companies we invest in.
Because it's been lacking.
It has been. It's starting to happen now, so we're starting to see that. So people don't have to go public to get liquidity.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about Twitter, too, because, Fred, you were an early investor in Twitter. You decided to sit out the third round of funding. Valuations passing, I think, around $1 billion is what they're talking about. I mean, was that a mistake in your view?
We didn't have the opportunity fund when we did that. So
you would have done it?
Well, we learned. We've learned that we have to be willing to continue, not only willing but able to continue to invest in these companies. We have small funds, so we get tapped out at a certain point.
Dennis, what do you see kind of as your biggest challenges going forward? I mean, there's definitely folks making moves. I think about Facebook recently introduced its own mobile check-in system. So did Google. How do you deal with the competition? How do you kind of stay ahead or
Well, we've got our, our own ideas of what we're trying to build, and we've got our own, distinct roadmap for where we want to be. And so I think the toughest thing for us is just like growing the team as quickly as possible, and really keeping everyone focused and keeping our heads down and not getting distracted by everything else.
Is that easy though when you have somebody like Facebook and Google making moves?
Well, I mean, you can watch what they're doing, and like we see everyone being inspired by everyone else here. But like we know what we have to build, and we know what the future looks like, and we just build as much as we can and as quickly as possible to get there.
What does the future look like?
Well, look at the phones we're all carrying in our pockets. They're basically just sensors that are connected to the network, and they can sniff out where I am and what I've been doing and who I'm with. And so those phones should be able to wake up at certain times and just, let you know about interesting opportunities, interesting things that are happening nearby.
Fred, got 30 seconds left here. Last week we spent all week talking about, the next Facebook, and folks are saying it's not even Facebook, it's something we haven't even thought about. What do you think are kind of the interesting ideas for the future?
Well, you can look at our portfolio.
This is it.
Yeah. Well, one of them, there's not going to be just one Facebook.
Yeah. But it's also beyond social media also in terms of the new interesting ideas, right, in other fields.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. We're going to leave it there. Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Dennis Crowley, Fred Wilson, we appreciate it.